Hello, I'm Cody Miller.
And I'm Brecken Dunn. Welcome to Stratazine, your source for authentic, curated content for digital and social media professionals.
On today's show, we'll take a look at how social media works in making business easy, advertising, and more.
In our Tips and Tools segment, Elise will help us get a better understanding of how social media boundaries can be set to make relationships more positive.
First, to our question of the day, what platform has made the most profit from social media?
We'll give the answer to this question near the end of this podcast. With the impact social media can have on business advertisement to a wide audience, I had the opportunity to talk with students on the BYU Idaho campus to find out their opinions on this subject.
All right, we're here at the BYU Idaho Center asking students about how they think social media has impacted relationships between businesses and customers. We're here with
Natalie.
Awesome. So I want to ask you, how do you think social media has impacted the way businesses interact with their customers?
Well, I definitely think it's a lot easier for businesses to reach their customers because they post ads all the time and people scroll a lot. So you can pay platforms like Instagram and Facebook to put your ads all over. And then if you make it exciting enough and interactive, people are going to click on it and then they'll get caught scrolling on your website and most likely buy something.
Yeah, that's great. And so would you say it's for better or for worse?
For businesses, better. For people who just want to use the platform for what it's for, it's kind of annoying, but it's really effective for businesses.
All right, thank you so much. Now we're here with
Liliana.
Awesome. How do you think social media has impacted the way businesses interact with their customers?
I think it's definitely broadened the scope of people that businesses can reach. With social media, everybody's on it across the globe, and so they can reach further distances and kind of expand their market, which I think is really helpful for them. And it helps them keep in contact, connect with their customers a little bit better through posting and that kind of thing.
Definitely. So would you say it's for better or for worse?
I think definitely for better as far as businesses go, because they can expand their market and reach a lot more people.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, we're here with
I'm Duncan.
Awesome. How do you think social media has impacted the way that businesses interact with their customers?
So I use it with my business right now. It's really helpful for us to reach out to new customers, especially because with small businesses, I see a small business uses a lot more effectively because they can't use branded marketing, like paid for marketing, like big box stores or anything. So they use social media, which a lot of people use that on a daily basis anyways. So them being able to use that to reach customers when they're a smaller company and advertise to the people in their local area is really helpful. And we use that with my company on a daily basis.
Awesome. So you would say it's for better rather than for worse?
Oh yeah, it's definitely, when you use it right, it's definitely for better rather than worse.
Awesome. Well, thank you. All right. So overall, we've noticed that a lot of the students here believe that social media has positively impacted the way that businesses interact with their customers. I'm Brecken, reporting for Stratazine.
The business aspect of social media platforms is always changing. A critical part of reaching your intended audience is to know how to make engaging content that will inspire people to interact with your business. Race McCune has been researching this topic of how social media can impact relationships.
Hello everyone. Today on Stratazine, we're talking about how social media can positively and negatively affect our relationships, especially when it comes to business. The dictionary defines a relationship as the way in which two or more people, groups, countries, etc., talk to, behave toward, and deal with each other. It wasn't that long ago that if someone lived far away, you couldn't interact with them daily. With the invention of the phone, the video call, and now social media, we're more involved in people's lives than ever. But social media isn't just changing personal relationships. According to the University of Utah School of Business, businesses are using social media to build deeper relationships than ever before. How can we leverage social media to improve both our personal and financial relationships? We'll explore that today on Stratazine.
Now that we know a bit more about this topic of the influence social media has had in human relationships, let's take a deeper dive into how we can put this information to work for us in content marketing.
Recently, I spoke with James Rognon, a professor at BYU, Idaho, focusing on the marketing and visual communications emphasis in business, about how businesses can use social media to use their impact. Welcome back to the Stratazine podcast. My name is host Cody Miller, and this is
James Rognan.
How are you doing today, Mr. Rognan?
Doing good. How are you?
I just want to ask you a couple of questions relating to specifically social media and how it can be used in the professional digital space.
Okay.
Well, one of my questions I just wanted to ask you is basically, how have you used social media in order to encourage your business interests and prospects on a personal basis?
What do you mean by personal basis?
Like, how have you used social media in order to increase your business relationships?
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm a professor, right? But I haven't always been a professor at BYU, Idaho. I have worked for a number of different companies, including some agencies, as well as most recently I was at Cabela's, like for hunting and fishing. And so I was senior interactive art director over that way. So we used a lot of social media, other content, and other things like that, right? The best way that I can kind of help describe this and kind of I think where you're going with it is it reminds me. So I did this experiment a couple of years ago where I have 4 kids, and ultimately what I did one weekend, I just wanted to see how it went, and I carried a banana around with me, and every time they asked me a question or tried to talk to me, all I would respond with was, "Do you want to buy this banana?" Right? And they're teenagers, and guess what happened after the second time I asked them? They stopped asking me things. They stopped talking to me entirely, right? And this is very much in relation with how businesses use social media. It's less about the advertising, the ability to sell product, and it's more about developing out a relationship over time, right? And that's kind of it's in the name. Social media, it's supposed to be social. It shouldn't be a one-way conversation. It should be a two-way conversation. So when utilizing social media, and ultimately this gets into an entire other field, content marketing, right? And content marketing, you use social media as a delivery method of content. Basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what kind of content do our audiences, viewers, and potential buyers want, how is that going to help them, and what value that we can provide to them. And so that ultimately builds trust over time. The more that we focus on helping them rather than focus on helping us as the business owners or the professionals working for a company or for a business, that trust over time eventually leads to purchasing and the business objectives behind that. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense. You want to build not a monologue, but a dialogue, as you've seen in social media. That could be a positive thing, but that can also be a negative thing depending on the kinds of people that you're interacting with.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I just want to ask you, speaking on this, what kind of difficulties do companies face in using social media and the relationships that are developed from these, relationships over social media?
Yeah, there's quite a few. It can be a pretty broad question, right? And a lot of different problems. And that largely
Just give me a couple.
It's going to depend largely on what kind of category you're in, what kind of topic, how you are currently using social media, right? And that kind of content as a tool. If you're utilizing it as a distribution method for ads, that can be a problem in and of itself. But like, let's say you look at, have you ever looked at Coke, like Coca-Cola, their social
I've heard of them.
Yeah, you've heard of them, right? It's really interesting. Their social channels, they don't actually, for their main Coca-Cola brand, they don't publish on that brand a lot. They actually are utilizing it in just a way where it's more focused on a brand presence, less about creating content and less about advertising. It's, hey, we are an active brand, we're a legit brand, and so on. Even to the point where their Diet Coke or it's either the Diet Coke or Coke Zero accounts, those are private. You have to get an invite. Like one of those is private. You have to get an invite to become a follower and engage with that brand. And so, it really comes down to, again, developing out that relationship. And when businesses forget to develop out the relationship and they only focus on what they need, That to me is the biggest problem with how most companies use social media today.
I have seen this in firsthand. The only reason Coke can definitely do this is because Coca-Cola is literally got the most recognized imagery in all of the advertising space, not to mention just in the world general. There are many brands that are second only to Coke in brand recognition, like Tropicana with with the orange with the straw in it, and Pan Am back in the day, giant airline, big blue meatball globe thing.
Yeah.
And that was basically how it was. And I remember Wendy's, if you've seen Wendy's social media posts, they are completely, absolutely unhinged. But that's neither here nor there. But that's how they got people to talk about what Wendy's is selling. They don't just advertise on their platform, but they make a lot of harsh tweets, and they basically say, hey, guess what? Guess what, McDonald's? Our ice cream machine ain't broken.
And what's interesting though is they only do that on Twitter, now X, right? But like they only do that on Twitter. How they interact and how they engage on Instagram is totally different than what they do on Facebook, because their audiences, the personality, even the way that we use those platforms are different. And so as a business, you have to understand how the platforms are being used. What is kosher? What is the right way of interacting on that? And then modifying strategy based off of that.
Well, I just want to ask you one more extra small question is, how can people or companies capitalize on the power of social media and the interactions between people?
Yeah. So it's kind of going back to all this too, again, and what I said at the beginning is it really comes down to that trust. So the more that we interact, the more that we develop out of friendship, and trust with the people, the audience members, right? Ultimately, that leads to greater understanding, greater more of a desire to kind of go through the entire funnel, the sales funnel, and consider making a decision and eventually buying something, right? And so it all comes down to those interactions. This happened a long time ago, a couple of years ago, but as a great example of this, do you know Lululemon? They
Yes.
do like yoga, clothing, like other stuff too. But anyways, I had a pair of their ABC pants, which I really love, stretchy, kind of like nice slack kind of traveler pants and that kind of stuff. And one of my old TAs actually sent me a tweet on Twitter asking, "Hey, what were those pants called again?" And Lululemon was watching that interaction, and they actually chimed in before I did, and they built trust. I mean, they built trust with me to the point that I bought a few more of the pairs of pants, and also with my old TA, right? And so it really does come down. Are you listening? Are you interacting? And not just selling? And that's the goal with all of that.
Well, thank you for coming on to Stratazine, and I hope more people will get to talk to you about these social media projects in the future.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this is Cody Miller signing off.
LinkedIn is known as an amazing resource that allows users to search for jobs. Now we will learn about a new feature for companies to use on the app.
Meredith Toddson has been using and researching how LinkedIn and its brand new feature can connect people with jobs and make careers possible.
Hello, my name is Meredith, and in today's industry news segment, we will be focused on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is introducing some changes to the premium company pages that they introduced last June. They have added the ability to invite followers of other pages like yours to also check out your profile. For example, if you run the McDonald's profile and you go to the Wendy's profile and click the button to say, introduce me to their followers, then the followers of the Wendy's profile will be told about your profile. This alerts the person of your account and in turn has them look at your account. This has been seen to boost your account 6.7 times. Premium company pages are very popular. They also get 10 times more button clicks than the average page, and they also start to get an improved display that will showcase a business's awards and certificates at the top of their page and in the search results when you look up the page.
Our tips and tools segment for this week is directly related to our topic of discussion. Elise took on the task of researching ways we can manage boundaries on social media so they don't negatively affect our relationships.
Hello, everyone. Today on Tips and Tools, we are going to talk about how you can set clear boundaries. Here are some popular apps that help you for your well-being. For example, Opal is a good for turning off your distracting apps so you can be right in the moment. Or you can choose apps that help you with your relationships, or find a communication that helps it with a real connection, like Marco Polo. Let's talk about some boundaries. Talk to your partner about boundaries. See what's okay to post on the internet. Also, have moments where there are no phone moments. Have those talks about how it makes you uncomfortable if you look through your phone or just other everyday things. If you see you're having problems with your phone in your relationship, talk with your significant other and see what the problem is. The website One Love helps you setting up digital boundaries with these 5 steps. Step 1, identify the problem. Step 2, trust your gut. Step 3, define the boundary. Step 4, start a conversation using I feel statements. Step 5, define the consequences. Thank you so much. Now back to the host.
Back to our question of the day. What business has made the most profit from social media?
The answer is Facebook and Instagram, which make the most profit. Together, they generate over $131.7 billion each year.
Well, that's all for this episode of Stratazine. Coming in our next episode, the topic will be social media and procrastination.
Thanks for joining us today on Stratazine.
You can find links and attribution to everything from today's podcast in the credits and the show notes. Have a great day.